Okay, my friends, this is pretty amazing. An ancient fireball turned miles of the world's driest desert into glass. This just came out a day or two ago. Now, it's talking about dark silicate glass, excuse me, strewn across the Atacama Desert was created by an exploding comet. They say 12,000 years ago. Well, I go to Velikovsky, who I studied quite well, and he claims this happened 3,500 years ago. But yes, I agree, there was almost a strike against the Earth by a giant comet. It was recorded in every culture on the face of the planet. And Velikovsky went and studied every one of them and got the information, the documents, the papyruses, the carvings, the ancient, rulers had all this stuff stored away in their vaults and places like this. This was very well documented. Terrible cataclysmic event 3,500 years ago. That's 1500 BC. Now, I'm going to read you some of what Velikovsky had to say about literally the Earth almost combusting because of the almost impact of this giant comet that hit our atmosphere and caused the atmosphere to literally combust. And he claims that the oceans boiled, the rivers boiled. It was a disaster, and I could see this melting if this was in a very concentrated impact spot, because it would have come down and bounced off our atmosphere at one specific spot more than anywhere else. And this could have been it. Melted the desert sands. All right, here's what he says right here. It says, this is the first time we have clear evidence of glasses on Earth that were created by the thermal radiation and winds from a fireball exploding just above the surface. Now, I don't know if that's a fact or not, but that's exactly what Velikovsky said basically happened, almost identical. Now, you really got to do a little studying about Velikovsky, because they have tried so desperately to destroy him through history here. He was a contemporary of Einstein. They knew each other. Velikovsky's theories, every one of his predictions about about Venus was accurate. Everybody else's was wrong. He said it was going to be 800 degrees or so. I think he said 600 at least. Well, it ended up being 850 degrees. Everybody else said, oh no, it's about the same temperature as Earth. Absolutely not. Anyway, Velikovsky said the oceans would have been raised to the boiling point of water. Now, they almost hit Earth, and this talks about it in the ancient text. Jupiter, the feared god Jupiter, gave birth to the fiery comet Venus, who turned into a planet eventually. But it's still hotter than hell, 850 degrees, because it was just born. Plus, it doesn't spin in the right direction. It's scrubbing instead of rolling. Like we roll like down a road through the solar system. It's rolling down the same road, but its tires are spinning backwards. That's why it's 850 degrees. It's turning backwards. All right, this is how they dealt with Velikovsky. Velikovsky said it was almost an impact of their atmosphere into our atmosphere. The heavens actually combusted, is what he said. And then he also said that Velikovsky, this is what he's saying, Velikovsky never suggests the entire oceans boiled, but the bottom of the sea boiled here and there. Now, I could understand that from the wrenching of the impact could cause the Earth to literally wrench in its basic structure and could possibly boil it from under. I pretty much suspect, though, most of it was boiled from above or heated from above, primarily because of the impact of the two atmospheres. Now, he said he attacked Velikovsky on this point, and some argued that if the Earth's rotation had halted, which he did say that happened too, the Earth stood still, and that's also written somewhere in I think it was the Bible or somewhere. It halted, the oceans would boil. Now, I don't know about that. I don't see why. Velikovsky noted that he had quoted in an account in his book which claims the oceans did boil. He did not go on to explain how the various species of marine life managed to survive with this kind of a disaster, but he didn't say it happened everywhere on Earth. And it wouldn't, because I'm going to show you in a couple of little diagrams well, let me just show you right now. All right, this is basically what happened. This just shows what is really happening in our atmosphere right now, is that our outer atmosphere here, because this is glued to us basically this far out. And any other atmosphere that's out there, we have to scrub through it. And we are scrubbing through the atmosphere that the sun sends to us, which is nothing more than electrons and photons and dust and so forth. But we have to scrub through it. Now, getting back to our other problem. Let's pretend this was Venus. Here we are just floating around, going through space, and all of a sudden this gigantic ball, which is almost exactly the same size as us, bounces off of our atmosphere just like this. It was a bang and hits that, and that would impact a region, fairly good size, but not the entire planet. And it would push, and maybe it would stop the Earth from spinning that day. As this impact happened, it'd be spinning like this, and this comes in and it says, and that's what would happen. You would maybe do a little wobbly, and that could crush the Earth and have it boil up from underneath. All kinds of disasters happen. I mean, it was absolute cataclysm. And they said this is during the time of the Exodus. And what Velikovsky says was, and apparently this is all recorded. He went through all of the ancient texts from everywhere in the world, and specifically he was a Jewish scholar, and again, he knew Einstein. He was very, very brilliant guy, and they crushed him because he went against what they were preaching, was that the evolution and there's no such thing as all this and gods and crazy, because this was Jupiter, they said the feared god Jupiter sent out Venus to destroy the Earth. And I'm going to tell you, there's some things about Venus and what happened. It fell on the Earth. It tells me that Venus was a living creature. Blood fell all over the Earth. And then chunks of stones fell all over the Earth, which would be the umbilical cord. And then manna fell all over the Earth, which is the placenta. It's like flakes of bread, like they said, were falling every night. They'd harvest them up and eat them in a day. What's the odds of that happening? Like Velikovsky said, it was hydrocarbons came. Well, blood is hydrocarbons. That's what blood is. It's in the hydrocarbon range there. And ferrous oxides, all these things fell. The red blood fell all over the Earth. Everything turned red and bloody. And if you read his books, it'll blow you away, absolutely blow you away. He's got 2 or 3, I think maybe 3. Worlds and Collisions, Ages, Chaos, and this happened just 1500 BC. This blew these people away like crazy, absolutely went crazy. I wrote a book to try to protect his image because he's been so maligned that even when you talk about him today, either people don't know who he was or they start laughing. Okay, let me just be real quick. This upends physics totally. This is light. Light's only supposed to go a certain speed. This is light accelerating, not allowed by Einstein. This is light dividing. Light is a particle, and it creates a wave because they're magnetic particles. There's 2 of them back to back. They control a big region like this around them with magnetic bump, push to shove. This one's pushing against that one. That's why they're starting to glow. When they get real pushy, they get real glowy, and that's right here. Back here you have almost no energy at all. Here we have 200 times as much energy as we started with. That means free energy, and that is exactly what CERN wants to see. They want to see this black ball separate from the white ball. That's an electron neutrino, that's a muon neutrino. And here they are when they separate, is what CERN wants to see. I need somebody to talk to me. That's the black ball, that's the white showers. That's the black ball, that's the white showers. That's fission, that's fusion. This is cold fusion. This is a solution to virtually every problem that we have now. If you could have free energy, every problem on Earth right now would go away. All right, listen to this now. It says, previously the researchers suggested that these huge ancient fires might have caused these glasses. Now, the area once hosted grassy wetlands, and the ancient grasses burned in widespread fires, they suspected. And they said maybe that created the glass. However, the glass itself is more complicated. Up close, it appears the glass pieces had been twisted, folded, rolled, and thrown while they were still molten. This, the researchers say, would only be possible with an airburst explosion that can unleash winds rivaling those of tornadoes. What Velikovsky said, it was a worldwide hurricane. Basically, tornadoes are everywhere in the world. Now, the other thing is the chemical analysis of glass revealed zircons, or minerals that thermally decomposed to form these type of crystals. This change can only happen when temperatures spike above 3,000 degrees, which would definitely exceed the heat generated by any kind of grass fire. So it pretty much shows that what Velikovsky was saying is quite likely to be the case. The thing you want to remember is this is on the surface of the earth. This isn't deep underground. This is on the surface of the earth. So why would they expect this to be 12,000 years ago, millions of years ago, which they always say, but everything's just laying right on top of the surface. This was not that long ago. All right, I've been studying this pretty hard, and Hesiod and Ovid and all of the earliest writers talked about these gods as being literal creatures. Now, they also appear to have been planets. Now, could they take on a human-like appearance and come down to Earth? I don't know. I have no idea, but I can tell you what. If you start to read all this, Mars and Jupiter and Venus, all these were planets. Listen to this. Mighty Jupiter, supreme deity of the Roman pantheon, a god of the sky and heavens, the champion of the Roman people. Now, he was in the sky. He was the god of the sky. He was the god of all gods. He was the god of all men, they say. And he was equivalent to Zeus. Now, it goes down way down here, and the thing I want to point out is he sired Venus. With Dione, he sired Venus. Now, Venus was the one that came down to mess up Earth to get rid of all the giants. And that's what it was written, and you really got to read through everything, but I can't account for any of this. I really can't. I got to be honest with you. It's a mind boggler to the end of time. Mind boggle. All I can say is they named all of these planets and I'm telling you, everything that I have found is organic, 100%. I haven't found anything that was just some kind of dirt. The stuff erodes and piles up in piles. Yeah. They call it sediment, absolutely, but it came from living creatures at one time. And all the things that are in heaven are living creatures' body parts, as I can tell. I mean, I have some here that are, no question, they came out of the sky, and they are body parts. And I don't know what to say. The cult of Jupiter thrived in Rome from its founding, popularly dated to the 8th century BC. To at least the 1st century BC. The cult waned with the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. Now, even we know now that the giants were absolutely enormous, and they were real. And in 80 BC, the Romans went into Tangiers and Morocco. I believe Morocco, Tangiers anyway. And they were told that, I think his name was Antiochus or Antheus or something like that, was the founder of that city, and he was killed by Hercules. And he was a giant, and he was buried outside the town. And the Romans didn't believe it. They went out and dug it up, and sure enough, he was there. So these things, they didn't, even in 80 BC, they didn't believe in giants. So, they weren't that far removed, but still close to 800 years, 1,000 years, 1,500 years, whatever. Things change pretty damn quick, and when people fall out of favor, what they had believed is gone. and it starts all over again. So I don't know what's right and I don't know what's wrong, but I can tell you what, I could find all of the things they talked about, the giants, the dragons, all the things that Velikovsky saw was written, and I agree with him. This burnt up desert, a glass in a desert, no question, that's a good possibility. All of these things can be accounted for now, but you have to open your mind up so wide that your head literally explodes. And I'm sorry, it happened to me. If you start and even take the time to stop and think, your head will give you a couple little clicks. It's not going to be easy. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to just all of a sudden say, all right, let me look at this. It's just, it's so far out of my realm of thinking. So don't think that, you're an unusual person for having that response. You're going to have that, but if you still continue that after seeing the evidence that I present, then there's something wrong with your mind. You are stuck as a captive. And they call that menticide. When you become so ingrained in believing something that someone's forced you to say, so you end up working for them against yourself. Because if you want reality right now and you're going to school, you're working for somebody else to support them against your own knowledge, because your own knowledge is being destroyed by having them force you to say what they tell you to say, regardless of the facts. And the facts are quite evident. And we need to go back and re-examine the ancient texts. As crazy as it sounds. And don't forget, I got into this because of finding these things on my own property. That's a fingernail, that's a fingertip from a giant. I mean, an absolutely giant. I think it's 36 inches long, something like that. And DNA tested human. And that is the side with the fingernail, and the other side has the fingerprints on it, and we're still in pretty good shape. All right, there's the fingerprints. Now, one ridge in the fingerprint, and these are the little sweat pores, is about the same size as my finger. So this is a good sized fingertip. And I have other stuff here. I have another hand, and that was also DNA tested. Hold on. This hand right here was tested for DNA. Same thing. Now that's a left hand. That's a bumper around your hand. That's a little, if you splay it back, you'll see you have one of these ridges runs down. I have a bunch of fingers and knuckles and all kinds of things from this. DNA, 100% human, mitochondrial DNA. And I showed you all the other stuff, that everything can change. This is a goose head. Anytime you have biological stuff in this particular condition, and I think it must have been boiled. That's all I can think now. I'm starting to think that's what happened. Originally, I didn't even consider that, and it's just been within the last, pretty recent that I've really given it the thinking that I really should have been doing originally. That this, well, who would ever expect it to be boiled? Although I did know about Velikovsky, and like I say, I wrote a book about him, but it just sort of slipped my mind about the boiling until recently. And I got to be honest with you, I'm going to give credit to a guy, Greg J, I think it is, and because he's got a lot of videos on about Velikovsky. He's just reading from the books apparently, and I saw one that said. Hurricane or something. It was about Velikovsky anyway. And I do want to give him credit for speaking about Velikovsky. So few people do. So it's time we need to reassess what our original past was. It's been so obscured by academia. They just absolutely won't reply to anything. And I just had it happen to me again today. I put up about this column basalt they talk about as being squirted out by volcanoes. It comes out in nice little columns. No, absolutely not. And I confronted this professor that says, oh, we want academic freedom and we want to express and we're going to debate anybody that doesn't believe in this stuff. And I said, fine, let's debate. No, I can't debate. It's not in my area. I said, not in your area. It's exactly what I said. No, I can't do it. This is the kind of stuff you get from these people. So I am going to debate these people with their names. I'm going to put their name up and say, I am going to debate so-and-so today. And I'll be doing it like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that, live on Zoom and recording it. And the people won't be there. If they're there, they're there. They won't show up. So they will look disgraceful when they don't show up. So I'll be doing these. I'm going to try to do them one every day, and because I have so many that I can, and I'm going to hit Yale and Harvard and Johns Hopkins and all of the one. And I've gone to a lot of these places and actually taken courses. You don't have to pay for them. You can take them online. They're free. They're everywhere. And Coursera. Hold on. Let me just show you something. I get this every day from Coursera. Hold on one second. I keep telling people, pay attention to Coursera. This is free, and they recommend things for you, like this vector calculus engineers, density functioning theory, optical devices, quantum optics. All of this is the stuff that I study all the time, and they just send you all this here, and you're free. And these are not lousy places either. Duke University, University of Maryland. This place here is in France. Georgia Institute of Technology, University of Colorado, Korea Advanced Institute, Medicine, Mount Sinai, St. Petersburg. I mean, this is not, now the thing is, you won't get a piece of paper. They can teach you, Duke University, you get all the same stuff as anybody else, but you don't get a piece of paper. And that's all they care about, really. But it wouldn't matter anyway, because the stuff they're teaching, 99% of it, and I'm not kidding you, is not correct. So if you go there, the only thing you can do is say, okay, I'm going to say the same things you told me to say. Then you get a piece of paper. If you're like me, you're going to say, that's not right, and then they're going to fail you anyway, and they keep your money. So why pay? You can go anywhere you want. And online, you go to Yale, you go to any of them. They have all their classes right online. I didn't care about the paper. It would be nice to have one. You say, oh, I went here. Well, but I did. I went to University of Geneva. I went to Johns Hopkins. I went to Rice. I've gone to classes at Yale. It's on. Advanced chemistry you could take, University of Kentucky. There's a lot of stuff that is actually good. It's very helpful. Yes, absolutely. But then there's a lot of nonsense, like general relativity. It's absolute total nonsense. And any of the physics stuff is really silly now. Semiconductors, I'll look into that. But, quantum physics, to listen to them about quantum physics, you're not going to get anywhere. Nanotechnology. Anyway, power electronics, this would be a good one to look into. Electrodynamics, nothing wrong with looking into that. Biology, biotechnology, all that stuff is good. The theoretical courses, it's not, that's a waste of time, absolute waste of time. They don't know how gravity works. They don't know if light is a particle or a wave or what it is. They don't realize that space is not a vacuum. It's loaded with the particles that are called light, photons, electrons, dust. We're scrubbing through that. Hubble's insane that everything's going so fast. Now it's going faster than the speed of light. It's not going faster. The light is slowing down more and more and more. That's all. That's how they judge it, is how slow the light's going now. It's got to be going real slow because everything's going away so fast. No, it's going slow because it's bumping into everything that's in front of it, which is, they think, nothing. But that's totally wrong. They think that we're the global heating, the greenhouse gases are creating carbon that's keeping the gases down. No, it's the expansion. Yes, carbon dioxide expands. We're going out scrubbing against all those particles in space as we spin through them. That's what's heating it up, 2,700 degrees out there. So go and find out what they have to say, but then dispute it. You're never going to get anywhere disputing them, because they own the property now, and you can't walk on their property without saying exactly what they tell you to say. So I'm doing better standing off to the side and just screaming. Sooner or later, somebody's going to hear me scream, and they're going to say, it's time to start paying attention, and let's just stand up. Let's stand up and do something. This is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.